Greetings everyone, this is TimeRider. What you see here is the Matchbox number 19A MG sports car, specifically an MG Type T. If I had to guess, based on looking at pictures on the internet, I would say this is modeled after the 1953 TD model. It has the proper rake on the rear deck where the spare is located and a nearly vertical front grille piece. Be that as it may, the toy was only produced for 2 years. It came in cream, off-white, and white. As I understand it, the white ones are worth the most. The trim configurations vary from none, like this one, to the front, rear, and windscreen having silver accents. The seat was always painted red, and the driver sort of a mustard color. My, how PC. According to variation guides, the toys without silver trim were made in both 1956 and 1957. The crimped axles, however, lead me to believe this was produced in 1956. Not only is it the oldest casting I've ever done, but it's eligible for Social Security. I'm going to restore it, so stick around. You know, there are certain things that Lesney castings had that the further back you go in their history, they disappear. Things like chassis and windscreens and other things. Disassembling this is pretty simple. You just grab the pinched end of the axle and squeeze it very tightly, and the wheels can then come off. As you can see, this had no chassis. It was about as simple a casting as there was. So get that spare tire off there. It was just kind of friction fit into the casting. And then these wheels are metal, so I just took all of it and threw it into old Tamiya jar and shot it full of WD-40. Figured I'd let them soak for a day or two. The body, though, gets to go into the primordial ooze. Let's see if we can get this paint off. Shake for luck didn't work out this time, though, I'll tell you. I found, too, that as you go back, the paint seems to get more rugged. After soaking in there, I had to bring out the big guns, which is the old aircraft stripper before they, neutered it. And I have a little bit of the spray on left, and I use it only in cases where I encounter that tough paint. And then, of course, once I get the paint off, we need to prepare the casting for new paint. Very rough casting, too. There wasn't a lot of the usual delicacy that you see in Lesney castings didn't exist. Everything was very crude. It reminded me of a Tootsie toy, to be perfectly honest with you. And there's a great irony to that, but I'll talk about that another day. A little bit of 4/0 steel wool. No posts to drill, no posts to tap. You see this is broken back here. And it came this way. There's a split right at the tail end of the fender. You see how that one is versus how that one is. So I'm going to try to fix this with great fear and trepidation, because it's a very dangerous place to start bending on a casting. I still got a gap there. Oh, and there it went. It just broke off. Fortunately, though, I didn't lose it. You can see it sitting there. So I'm going to go about the fiddly business of trying to reattach it. Very carefully, I'm just going to try to get it into a spot where it looks like it belongs. And then that's a little bit of CV glue. And I have to pick it up fairly quickly because I don't want to glue the whole thing to the wooden block. And when I did get it up, you can see it's not fully glued, which actually works to my advantage. Because it allows me to maneuver it just a little bit more. And then what I didn't show on camera here is that I used a little bit of super glue gel. No baking soda, just the gel, to try to firm that up. It's so thin, I didn't want a big lump of baking soda back there. And we're going to paint this thing with Duplicolor white. Like I say, the casting it's very rough. It's clearly one of their early castings. And we'll pull these wheels and axles out of the WD-40. And you can see the WD-40 is kind of dirty. And I'm going to scrub each of them, both sides, with a toothbrush. And then use my pick, because they are metal wheels, to clean out those areas right along the edge of the center hub. All four wheels, and actually the spare as well. This is kind of a takeoff on what Nick at Matchbox Restorations used to do, but using my wire wheel to clean those axles. And this color, I don't know what you want to call it, kind of a buttercream. I suppose it's Fred the paint guy had pancakes this morning cream. And I'm going to put a tack coat on the casting, and then I'll let that tack coat dry for 15 to 20 minutes. And then I'll come back with heavier coat. This paint flowed pretty well, and it was a pretty simple casting, so I just did a tack coat, and then the medium coat just kind of flowed into a wet coat. And then I finish it up, of course, with Tamiya X35 Semi-Gloss Clear to go for a shine that is more period than the high gloss stuff. And now I gotta make Jimmy. And I make that mustard using a little bit of red, the lemon Tamiya lemon yellow, a little bit of the red, a little bit of the brown. And here we go. That wonderful mustard colored driver. And before you know it, you've got Jimmy. Putting the wheels on is just the reverse of taking them off. You grab the flat portion of the axle and just squeeze it really hard. And then, of course, the seats are all red. Jimmy's ride needs a red seat. What I'm going to do here, I guess, is we're going to jump back to the starting point of this whole project so you can see where we started. You can kind of see the seat used to be red in this, and you can clearly see that none of the silver accents were painted. So anyway, let's see where I wound up. So there you have it. The Matchbox number 19A MG sports car. All right, so I gave Jimmy a job. He's driving a cab. And I gave Jimmy a sports car so he could take all those cab tips and cruise the English countryside. So I guess going forward, I should probably just leave Jimmy alone, huh? Anyway, no episode of The Bench on the end of this one, just because there's going to be a standalone episode of The Bench tomorrow. So if you like The Bench, watch tomorrow, and I'll talk about some things that are coming up in 2020 and finish the unfinished business that I have. At any rate, this is TimeRider, and I'll leave the light on for you.